What up, my good people? How the hell are you all doing? Hope everyone out there is doing well, enjoying the old Summer Game Fest season. The festivities are under, well, I guess they're pretty much wrapping up at this point, which is why I'm wanting to do this video. I've been trying my damnedest to follow along with a good majority of the showcases and see the latest and greatest and all the new announcements from the big AAAs, which we have discussed a good bit on the show. But also I've been trying to stay up to date with the indies and the smaller games and the smaller showcases. So that's what I want to do in this video, is I want to specifically highlight kind of like maybe the potential future hidden gems that were revealed for the first time this Summer Game Fest season, this not E3 season, whatever you want to call it. So I've kind of just went through, you know, like the Future Game Showcase, Guerrilla Collective, Day of the Devs, the Wholesome Direct. Like I've kind of went through a good majority of the shows and watched those, took my favorite games, like, you know, jotted down the games that really stood out to me, and I'm going to highlight those for you here today. I really wanted to focus on games that I either had never seen before, that were just totally new to me. So I felt like, hey, maybe if it's new to me, it might be new to some of y'all as well. There's a couple games on this list that are repeats, but they offered up some new information, like maybe a release date or some different style of gameplay, or just maybe something I wanted to be like, hey, I think it's flying a little bit under the radar, so I want to shout it out and put it on people's radar. But really, the main priority of this video is to spotlight some new shit. So we got a lot to go through, so I'm going to quit rambling and get straight into it. I think we got like close to 30 games here, so let's talk some vidges. And also hit me in the comments if I left some shit out. I'm sure I left many notable games out, and I'm always on the hunt looking for some solid indies to check out. So, but yeah, let's start off this list with Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. And I think this is genuinely one of the best looking games that was shown off throughout the entire week, throughout the entire Summer Game Fest week. The animation is gorgeous. The 3D exploration in your ship looks absolutely incredible. The world environments are super detailed when you're on foot. It looks really solid. And it's sort of a kind of Skies of Arcadia inspired game. And there's very few games that are trying to capture that Skies of Arcadia nostalgia, and Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire is definitely attempting to do that. You got some turn-based strategy implemented in there for your combat with your, you know, dogfighting setup. And yeah, it's coming from Oseto Games, who they haven't put out much to this point, but regardless, I'm definitely keeping my eye on this. It looks rock solid. And next up, let's talk about Hello Again. And this is a cozy looking time looping game where you are the only person in the game world who knows you're on a time loop, and you can like use that knowledge that you're the only person in this world who understands that the world is looping and the time is restarting and all that shit. You can use that knowledge to manipulate other characters in the game world. And I believe you get to make different decisions, maybe some dialogue choices as well. And yeah, it's just like this small open-ish world. You're on this small island that you're exploring, solving a few puzzles. It looks really good. I loved the Forgotten City in 2021, and this kind of gives me some Forgotten City Outer Wilds energy from what I saw in the trailer. And obviously I'll have all the trailers running so you can see for yourself. But yeah, Hello Again. Shout out. And then let's talk about the Crush House. So conceptually, I think this is one of the more interesting sim-style games that I've ever stumbled upon. And so, like, instead of managing an individual person's day-to-day life, or, you know, building a city or a roller coaster park or whatever the case may be, in Crush House, you are managing a reality show. And you're, like, picking the cast, you're choosing different challenges, and you get to watch the ratings go up or down in real time. And then so you're having to kind of like strategize and adjust on the fly and maybe add like, you know, a little extra tension, a little extra drama. You're trying to raise the stakes of the game. And it's being published by Devolver, so you know there's some pretty solid backing on this one. Devolver usually doesn't put out bullshit, so the Crush House, I'm a I'm a fucking sucker for like early 2000s, late 90s MTV sort of reality television, you know, and even somewhat of the mid 2000s, like the Jersey Shore and shit. I was still addicted to stuff like that. But you know, like Next and Road Rules and the Flavor Flav's fucking dating show, and then I think Rock of Love with Bret Michaels. I think that might have actually been VH1. But you know, just reality shows in general. The Ultimate Fighter on Spike, and I think Tough Enough was also on Spike. Just there was a real, I have real nostalgia for that early 2000s reality show energy, and the Crush House seems to really be capturing that, and it's just such a unique concept that I had to shout it out. And next up we have Pedal Runner, and this is just so fucking cute. You're running around, or I guess biking around, and you're delivering different pets on your bicycle, and it's this like pastel color palette, color scheme, and then there's some little mini games and shit going on. It just looks so relaxing, so chill. I don't have a ton to say about Pedal Runner, but I mean, just look at it. It looks so fucking cozy. And next up, let's talk about Nobody Wants to Die. And this seems to be a walking sim-ish detective game, but you see a few shots in the trailer like you're driving around this, you know, dystopic cyberpunk-looking city, and so it seems like there's going to be a little bit more going on than just walking around and solving puzzles and doing detective on-the-ground work, but from a visual fidelity perspective, it looks fucking incredible. It looks so good. It is a bit worrying, in my opinion, that throughout this entire trailer, for as far as I remember at least, you don't see a single character model, and it's like a narrative-driven walking sim style game. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, what sort of narrative are we putting together here if we're not interacting with people? But yeah, I don't know. You kind of get some observer vibes from it, but with it seems like maybe a time manipulation slant. You have some device that you're seemingly able to retrace steps and solve puzzles by looking at shit that happened in the past. Yeah, I don't know. It looks cool. Has a, like I said, a observer Blade Runner sort of influence in there. I don't want to be negative here, but I kind of also get some Quantum Error vibes from it. Something that like looks so impressive on a environmental and visual fidelity level, but not much to really impress you outside of that. I don't want to speculate on the negative side. I hope this is solid, but yeah, I wanted to shout it out because we rarely get detective stories at all, and so at least from a very base level, it's compelling to me. And it's being published by PlayOn, so you know they got that Embracer bag. That doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't necessarily mean success or critical success or high quality per se, but at least there's a little bit of cash going into this thing, so hopefully Nobody Wants to Die turns out well, because it is fucking beautiful just from a, you know, fidelity standpoint. Eternal Strands. This is one that, talking earlier about trying to avoid games that I've seen before. Eternal Strands I've seen quite a bit of, but it just continues to wow me. It's coming from a lot of ex-AAA talent, some ex-BioWare, some ex-Ubisoft talent. They went and formed their own studio, Yellow Brick Games. And yeah, this looks kind of Immortals, Phoenix Rising meets Shadow of the Colossus. You got your Shadow of the Colossus style fights where you're scaling these enemies, and it has like this dynamic environment with different weather effects that can have some sort of impact on the different boss fights and the different moves you're able to pull off or not able to pull off. And yeah, you see some character customization and shit going on in this trailer. You got these big ass dragons flying around. You see a few non-boss encounters in this trailer, which I don't think we have seen before at all. Before this trailer that you're watching right here, I think this is the first time we've seen any just kind of moment to moment enemy encounters that were not bosses. So yeah, I wanted to shout this out. Every time I see it, it just slowly climbs up my most anticipated list more and more. So shout out to Eternal Strands. I feel like it is one of those games that looks so good, and I don't see a ton of people talking about it, so worth mentioning it. Next up, we have Tom the Postgirl. And Yeah, obviously I'll have this running for y'all to see it. This is fucking weird. You're playing as this creepy post lady peeping Tom style chick, and this is maybe the most disturbing trailer that I saw all week. It's beautiful. Like, it looks really, really good. You got these hand-drawn environments, and it has this very immediately eerie feeling while also being so pretty with this, this black and white art style with the splashes of red, and you're seeing the blood highlighted so prominently. It looks so good, but the concept is so creepy, and some of the weird characters that you're seeing in this trailer is so fucking creepy, and just, going around peeping in windows and shit. I don't know what the concept or like what the moment-to-moment gameplay is really going to be with this game at all, but it's unbelievably weird and unsettling and unlike anything that I've seen maybe ever. And this is one I'm sure all of you have already heard about and seen at this point. The Thing is getting a remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, from Night Dive, the studio that just put out the damn, I got a physical copy on the way and now I'm forgetting the name. The System Shock remake. And they also they developed the Turok remakes. I think they developed the Star Wars remake that recently came out as well. Dark Forces, if I'm not mistaken. They've done a lot of these really high quality remaster remakes in the past few years, and The Thing is such a perfect one. The Thing is one that for me is so perfect because I really enjoyed it when I played it when I was younger, but I never finished it. And it's always been one that I've wanted to go back to, and now I have just like a perfect reason to jump back in and play it with some modern enhancements and shit. You don't see any gameplay or anything in the trailer, but I feel like, I don't know, at this point, Night Dive is kind of just worth trusting it to some extent. I'm not saying, obviously we'll have to see some gameplay and have to see some of the product represented in its complete form before we throw down $60 or whatever, but I feel like Night Dive is probably going to hit this out of the park if their previous work is anything to judge by. And now we have a real heavy hitter on the list, Lost Hellden. This looks fucking amazing. It's this 3D hand-painted JRPG with, I think it has some ex-Square Enix and ex-Sony talent working on it. And some of the world environments in this trailer rival anything that we saw in the bigger showcases this week. This game feels like it's going to have a big splash if they're able to live up to the lofty ambition that these developers are setting out to achieve. And it seems like they're wanting to combine the strategy of like turn-based gameplay with the more dynamic feel that you get from action RPGs. Honestly, it looks a lot like Final Fantasy VII Remake Combat. I'm not trying to put it in that company or trying to say that it has to reach those standards, but this looks really, really impressive, and for sure, keep your eye on this one. Yooka-Laylee Remake. I have zero knowledge whatsoever about Yooka-Laylee, but we rarely ever get high-quality 3D platformers. I never played the original, and this is kind of the thing where even with... Man, why my brain is not working today? What's the 3D platformer game that came out earlier this year? The Penny's Big Breakaway Adventure, or whatever it's called. From some of the Sonic developers. And I didn't really love the game. I played a little bit of it. I was like, this is good. I can tell it's high quality. It wasn't necessarily something that was for me, but I was like, I felt even if it wasn't something that was going to end up landing and something that I really was going to just adore and play through and finish, I was like, yeah, I'm still happy to support this thing because I want to see more 3D platformers, and the more of them that can profit and be more viable financially, you'll see more developers try to tackle games in this space. So that's something I'm always kind of like you saw recently with the survival horror renaissance, and developers are like, oh shit, games like Signalis and Tormented Souls and then Crow Country, and these games are classic PS1 inspired horror games, and they're doing pretty well, and now you're starting to see a lot more of them. Or back in the day when we had the I'm rambling like a motherfucker, but when we had like the Somas and the Layers of Fear games, and then it's like, oh shit, this walking sim horror genre is actually viable for independent developers and smaller developers. And so I don't know, I want to support 3D platformers because every now and then I'll really find one that is just like rock solid, something I really, really love. So Yooka-Laylee remake, I'll probably be checking it out. If I don't love it, that's okay, because I want to see more high quality 3D platformers. And yeah, Eriksholm, The Stolen Dream. This is character models. The character models in this game look great, man. They're building the game from a gameplay standpoint as a isometric stealth game, but with like a real heavy narrative driven focus, and it looks good. It looks real good. We only got like a minute-long trailer, but in that short time, you have like a pretty clear understanding of what this game is going to be. And sometimes like pure stealth-focused games don't really click with me, but it's, once again, kind of somewhere in that same wheelhouse that I was just speaking to earlier or a second ago with the 3D platformers. And this is one where you see the amount of production value and the amount of focus that's being put into this story. It makes you think like, okay, these developers are really trying to tell you something compelling, like not necessarily a stealth game, but like Indica that came out this year, like a real clear vision, or even a Plague Tale, which is more stealth leaning. But really, as much of it, sure, there's some stealth elements, but that's really a story-driven experience, and I feel like this is probably going to be the same thing. So, Eriksholm, The Stolen Dream, you have my attention. Karma, The Dark World. This is a narrative-driven, first-person body horror game, and once again, in terms of visual fidelity, this is a showpiece. This looks great. It has a kind of Control Atomic Heart vibe with the world flipping and you're swapping perspective constantly. But yeah, ultra gory, some solid jump scares. I'm, like we talked about, I'm kind of tired of the first person walking sims in the horror space, but if they do tell a really compelling story and it's not a game just about walking around and trying to convince the player that the story is all taking place inside of their head, and it's all taking place in the world around you, and the environments that you, or the items that you pick up, and the environments around you, that's really the story, and that you don't have to have a front-facing story because the story's all around you. And it's like, give me a fucking story. Come on, man. But Karma, The Dark World, from at least from a shock value perspective, definitely is one of the more eerie trailers that, or at least in terms of jump scares, one of the more eerie trailers that I saw this week. And now let's talk about the Precinct. We got a release date for this title. This is an old school Grand Theft Auto style game, but you're playing as the police instead of the criminals. And I loved what this developer did with American Fugitive. It's, once again, another old school GTA top-down perspective style game, and yeah, so I'm checking out the Precinct just based off of their previous work. It's coming out August 15th, 2024. My only real hope with this game is that they don't lean into the police sim elements too much and forget to tell a really strong story, because that's one of the most surprising things about the American Fugitive, is that it had a surprisingly strong, surprisingly well-written story, like really, really compelling story. Actually, I just picked up a physical copy of it. I gotta get back into it and finish that game, but I'm probably 3/4 of the way through it at this point, and I've really been digging it, man. Really, really surprising how good that story is. So, The Precinct, August 15th, 2024. I shall be there. Parcel Corps. A game we talked a little bit earlier. I was talking about how I'm trying to pick out very unique and games that don't step on each other's toes here, but we did talk about a game that was similar of this style of moment-to-moment gameplay, I guess, kind of. But yeah, it's a game, once again, all about making deliveries on your bicycle. But instead of the cute pastel sort of visuals that were going on in the game we were talking about before, this is more of a jet set radio feel to the world. A very bright, a very neon sort of aesthetic, prominent neon aesthetic on offer. And just every single, part of this world, you're leaping onto every rooftop, grinding every rail. It seems to want to capture the extreme sports aspect a little bit more than the game we talked about earlier that I'm already blanking on the damn name of. I apologize. But yeah, Parcel Corps releasing September 23rd, so not long at all. Next up, let's talk about Screenbound. This is a game where you're exploring this 3D environment, but you are holding like a handheld, Game Boy style handheld device. And what you do in the 3D world impacts what the character does and where he moves in the like 2D Game Boy world. And like you can't see enemies in the 3D world, only the 2D world. So you're kind of having to use both of these perspectives to continue moving forward and continue progressing. It's one of those games where it's so unique that it could kind of border on tedious at times. I don't know. I'm not trying to put negative energy out there, but I could see that potentially being the case. But without a doubt, it's so unique in the idea, in the concept alone. Had to give it a shout out. Vultures, Scavengers of Death. You see so many Resident Evil 1, or, I guess I should say PS1, Resident Evil RE1 through 3 inspired games. Silent Hill inspired games. But you rarely see Parasite Eve inspired titles, and this seems to be doing just that. It's a turn-based survival horror ... Here comes the blow. Roguelike. It's an instant hype killer for me. But, sometimes I do understand from an indie developer perspective. It's like, how in the world can I maximize the amount of time the player can spend in this world without having to, create 150 new fucking scenarios for the player to explore to hit that 5-6 hour runtime or whatever. Like, I do understand that. But with that being said, anything roguelike at this point is kind of a hype killer for me. But hopefully there's ways to just sort of circumvent that, avoid those elements, and just play the game, get a story, get a good Parasite Eve inspired horror title. So yeah, Vultures, Scavengers of Death. Love the damn aesthetic on this thing as well. Then we have Zodiac XX Leo, and this is being billed as an action sci-fi thriller. And it seems like you got some dogfighting going on. Maybe, I believe that's just straight up dogfighting going on. I don't think there's any mech gameplay on offer from what I'm looking at here in the trailer. But yeah, there's a good degree of environmental variety taking place here, which is a big selling point for me. And yeah, I loved Course. Obviously, I'm not expecting this game to be on that budget or scale, but I'd be down for another, solid 3D aerial combat style of game. So Zodiac XX Leo, you got my attention. It's been, I think Course came out in 2021, so I don't think I've played another game in this genre since then. And, enjoyed, what was it, Star Wars... Is it Rogue? Star Wars Squadrons. They came out in 2019, 2020, and then Chorus. And so I do like games of this genre, so I shall keep my eye on it. Phoenix Springs. You are playing as a reporter searching for your brother, and they're calling this a modern point-and-click game, but you don't hold objects, and instead you hold thoughts and ideas, and you have to, connect those, when I'm saying hold objects, meaning storing them in your inventory or whatever. You're more so storing your thoughts and different memories, and you're having to connect all these different ideas and solve puzzles in your head to progress, instead of the you know, okay, I got this key, now I got this thing, and I can unlock this door with this card, or whatever the case may be. But really the thing that stood out to me about Phoenix Springs was the voice acting in this trailer was superb, man. Really, really good. And it's got a great hand-drawn animation as well, and that's just something that most indie developers really excel at, is creating just very distinct looking games, because that's such a immediate selling point for games of this scale. And yeah, man, Phoenix Springs looks solid. Angerfoot. This is one, once again, we've already seen a good bit about this, but it finally has a release date, July 11th. It's a game where you kick the shit out of shit, and just looks so damn cool. This you know, cartoony art style and just non-stop bombastic action. Pump it in my veins. Slay the Princess. Another one that we've known about for a while, but this is now getting a console release as well as a physical release, so I shall be picking up the physical copy for that for sure. I've heard great things about it. It's one of those games that, like, I don't really want to know anything about other than what I've seen in the trailers. It's like, that's all I want to know. But I've seen, you know, on Metacritic and this, that, and the other, where it's getting sky high review scores, but it kind of has that it feels to me like it has that energy of, you want to know as little about this game as humanly possible before you go into it. Kind of the I don't know, like Doki Doki Literature Club and games of that ilk, where it's like, stay away, because there's going to be some shit popping off in here that you're not going to expect. That's at least the vibe I get. I have no clue. And next up here we have Tenjutsu, and this is from the designer of Dead Cells, and this is a action-packed martial arts-based combat system. But it's unfortunately, once again, another roguelike, but whatever. We'll just judge it based off of how it looks in this trailer, and in this trailer, it looks amazing. Animation looks rock solid. It kind of gives me a Midnight Fight Express vibe with the combat, maybe a little bit less, what's the word I'm looking for, weapon-based, I guess. In the trailer for Tenjutsu, it looks a little bit less weapon-based than Midnight Fight Express, a little bit less crazy, bombastic action movie style set pieces and shit. But yeah, regardless, looks damn good. The Midnight Crimes. This, immediately, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this looks just like a Telltale style game. We didn't see any gameplay for it, but it's being described as a point-and-click detective game. The description here reads, in the Midnight Crimes, you are a retired private detective investigating the case of a missing child while facing his own past demons. Midnight Cove, the wicked Victorian city you live in, features a semi-open world, mechanics, side quests, pets, characters, relationships, and much more. So obviously, this is a wait and see until we get some actual gameplay on this thing, but from the visuals, from the aesthetic alone, something that immediately screams out Telltale to me. That's gonna be something that catches my attention for sure, especially if it is gonna lean into any sort of decision making, which would be excellent. Tides of Tomorrow. This is coming from the Road 96 developers. This is their next title, and I enjoyed what I played of Road 96. But this, specifically this tone in Tides of Tomorrow, is much more appealing to me. I think this looks tremendous. The character models look fantastic. You're riding like a boat or a jet ski, escaping at one point towards the end of the trailer. The world environments look really solid, and it seems like you're making choices, and seemingly also what other players do in the game will affect your playthrough. They're billing it as an asynchronous multiplayer game, so yeah, it seems like what other players do while you're offline will somehow affect your game. I'm very, very curious about how that's going to work, and when I went to their Steam page, I found this description here. I don't really love the sound of it, if I'm being honest, but it says, from the makers of Road 96, Tides of Tomorrow challenges you to survive the troubled ocean of Eland, as well as the choices made by your friends and favorite streamers. So, I don't know. I hope there's no like goofy required connection to certain social media apps, or I don't know. I hope they're not building this game as primarily something that Twitch players will enjoy and forgetting to build a game for the average person to enjoy. I'd be down for some sort of, but it's even then like your friends list can have an impact on your game. That doesn't really make sense to me. Like, what if nobody on my friends list even buys this game, which I feel unfortunately is highly likely. And yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it's more something in the vein of how Supermassive will show you this amount of people did this, and it's like, okay, well, the game is skewed by when you're playing it. If 50% of people, like in a Telltale game, if 55% of people wanted this person to live, then that will also somehow impact your game, opposed to, I don't know. This is a really wild thing. I'd like to see more on this for sure. And I tried to do a fair bit of digging to find out exactly how this is going to work. I can't really find anything. So this is very much a make or break style feature for me. But I mean, from the trailer just looks so interesting. So hopefully it's not too annoying, and hopefully you can play the video game like a video game. And next up here we have Deep Beyond, and instantly to me I kind of got like a Firewatch at Sea vibe. I love the art style with this very overwhelming sort of warm color palette with like the orange water and shit. And to me, when you instantly see the game, I got a Firewatch energy to it, but really the Firewatchy elements start playing out more obviously whenever you see like the dude coming in from behind, and then this mysterious character who pops up behind you on the boat, and there's just some weird creepy undertones throughout this trailer. Yeah, so this is definitely on my radar, just for the unsettling sort of nature and the very, very distinct color palette choice that's on offer here with Deep Beyond. So shout out to you. And our final game on the list is Road Out. Its description reads, Road Out is a post-apocalyptic action adventure that mixes dungeon exploration and racing mechanics. So this has a lot going on. You're seeing some on-foot combat, some vehicular combat, I think is in this trailer, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's just more kind of cruising around. Seems like you're more just cruising around. But yeah, it just seems to have a really, really good variety, which once again is super important to me. And I've talked about on this channel before multiple times how I'll tolerate a slightly below average game if it's doing some real unique shit. And yeah, that's kind of the whole purpose of this video. Not to say I'm trying to highlight below average games or anything like that, but I'm trying to highlight games that at least look different from one another, play different from one another. We get a million roguelikes and Souls-likes and this like and that like, and I'm trying to highlight some shit with a little bit of genre variety on offer here that I've saw in the past few weeks. And even with that said, like, you know, we went over a few roguelikes in here, and I'm sure a couple Souls-likes and games that you've seen a time or two, walking sims, stuff like that. So but I still tried my best to highlight the things that looked really unique within those respective genres. So that's the list, man. It was fun putting this together, and I hope you guys enjoy this, because I'd love to make this a annualized series on the channel, trying to highlight some things that maybe aren't getting as much buzz, as much attention. I know I don't have like a fucking huge following here or anything, but you know, maybe get a couple hundred eyes on some new titles, and maybe help somebody find something that's a little bit under the radar that they might really end up enjoying. And I think a lot of the most unique shit that's happening in the game space is happening from the creation of indie developers. So definitely always like to see the new upcoming hot shit in the streets from the indie games. But stay tuned for the pod this week. We will be talking the Dragon Age. Probably by the time you're watching this, you've already seen the Dragon Age gameplay reveal, deep dive. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the Ubisoft Forward. We will be talking about a bunch of other shit as this Summer Game Fest thing. It doesn't seem to end. I do kind of miss the E3 sort of. You had that big, like, 3-day, 4-day blowout of information, with some of the interviews lasting a little bit longer going into the actual work week. But still, I do kind of miss the more concise nature. It's getting a lot better though. I feel like Summer Game Fest is getting a lot better of trying to pack all that info into a shorter period, and yeah, I just personally prefer that. So I'm rambling at this point. Appreciate y'all for watching. If you do enjoy, try to leave a like, a comment, a subscription if you feel so inclined to. Definitely helps out the channel a lot and gets us out to new eyeballs. And yeah, I don't know. Appreciate y'all. See you good people in the next video. Goodbye.